Hello and welcome to today's webinar in Lieu of NAB Show webinar series. Today we're going to talk about direct data reporting. As always, please ask your questions throughout the webinar. There is a question section that you'll see there. Chelsea will help answer all those and ask them throughout the entire webinar. If you have any questions, I'd rather answer them as we go than save them to the end. And also, we will be recording this, and then we will be then sending out an email to everyone that registered, and you'll get a link to the video. If you miss any of the other webinars, feel free to go to our YouTube channel, which is Titan TV Inc. You'll be able to see all of our past webinars on there in case you missed something, or just send us an email and we can provide you that information. So with that in mind, the agenda today, we're going to review the television guide services. Who are the guide providers? Where do they provide guide data? Why are the guides many times inaccurate? And then we're going to introduce, which I'm excited about, the MediaStar Scheduler direct data reporting, who is eligible for it, and the timeline of the rollout. So to introduce myself, if you're not familiar, I am Heidi Steffen. I am the Chief Revenue Officer, and with me today is Chelsea Stumpff. She is our Broadcast Tools Product Manager. So let's dive right into this. So a lot of this might just be a review for you, but I thought it was important for us to really kind of review all of this in the guide industry. And for those that maybe had missed some of our previous webinars. So the four major data providers in the US for guide data is one, Gracenote. They're formerly known as TMS or Tribune Services. They're now owned by Nielsen. You have TiVo, which is formerly Weve, which was the original legacy TV guide service back in the day. Redby, also known as FYA Television, they're part of the Ericsson International Company. They are the ones that provide Titan TV with our baseline data for our different guide services. Then the last one is TV Media. They're based out of Canada, and they are really starting to make their way into the US market. So who provides guide data for what? So we're going to start with cable. This is probably the one that we get the most emails in from stations wanting to know how to update this guide information on this cable. What I can tell you is the data providers they're not able to, per their agreement, say who they actually provide guide data to. So through some of our interactions with different TV stations and companies, we've been able to kind of gather this information, and I really want to emphasize this information is to our knowledge. We know it's always changing. I know when we originally did this Guide Services 101 earlier this year, after that someone said, oh, by the way, I heard just now that this service is now being provided by this provider. So if you know any of this information, please share it with us. We want to keep up to date as much as possible, but it's constantly changing. So from our knowledge, Gracenote provides the guide data for the majority of the North American cable companies. It is to our knowledge that AT&T cable is provided by Redby, FYI. We were told any customer that's retail or cable company that actually uses the TiVo guide platform or their set-top boxes, that guide data is provided by TiVo. So that one's probably a little easier for you to know. So if a consumer calls in and they ask and they tell you it is a TiVo cable box, then you need to reach out to TiVo. Then TV Media is providing data for many of the smaller cable companies. So even though Gracenote might cover most of the majority, it's the smaller ones that TV Media is picking up. We also are aware of that there are some cable companies that are actually taking the PSAP, which is the metadata in the over-the-air signal, right into their system, and they're using that guide data to display on their EPG, or they get it directly from the station. So some stations email their information directly to maybe that small cable company. They're ingesting it and putting it in their system. Now, satellite, this is the one that changed earlier this year for us. So to our knowledge, if it's Dish Network, it's provided by TiVo. If it's DirecTV, it's provided by Gracenote. Then PSAP. So again, the PSAP is that metadata that's provided in your digital stream to consumers that are receiving your station with an antenna. Titan T provides about 900 broadcast stations. It's actually might even more than that now, which equals about 4,000 distinct channels daily in the PSAP. We do know that Gracenote also provides PSAP. Then for dominantly PBS stations, they're getting their PSAP data directly from their ProTrack, which is by Myers. Some stations have their own licensed or created software that they're building that schedule and then sending out the data to the PSAP. And then we also know that there are some stations that are just putting a static. When we say static, it's really just the channel name and generic title. It's not actually telling you each what program is, but that can be entered directly in the piece of hardware. Now over the top, this is where it gets complicated, but it's starting to get more traction, and we're starting to get more people are saying, hey, do you know who's updating this? So again, to our knowledge, Gracenote provides data to the big OTT providers, all except for Netflix. TiVo, it's the same thing that we saw in cable. Any of the OTT platforms that are using any of their services, either retail or cable, consumer electronics, it is then that TiVo is then providing the data. To our knowledge, Gracenotes provides the data to YouTube and also Google on top of that. Sling TV. One of the things that's interesting by Sling TV that I kind of really want to note, if someone calls in and they says the guide's not right on their Sling TV, you need to ask, how are they receiving your local channel? Because one of the big pushes with Sling TV was that they were pushing consumers to purchase an antenna, or they would give them an antenna for free if they took Sling TV, because then they would get the over-the-air channels from you guys directly instead of through having to pay for them. So again, if that consumer is using an antenna to get those channels on their Sling TV, it's actually directly coming from your station through your PSAP. Otherwise, they're probably getting it from DirecTV, which is Gracenote. Paramount Plus, formerly known as CBS All Access, is Redby FYI. And then we know a lot of local station apps have their own OTT platforms. And we also know that we actually provide guide data to some of those. So those are where it gets interesting. Some are coming directly from the station themselves, a tool that they're built, or they use a third party like ourselves. Now, online guides. I'm not going to go really in detail this, but this is a whole nother one. And the one I did notice from the last time I was actually able to get some more information. I finally figured out where ontvtonight.com is a company out of Australia that originally started in Australia. It's called eBroadcast, but they're now in the US and making some footprint there. So there's always growing in the market. So the question is, all these guides. So why are the guides many times inaccurate? This is what we've really learned, is from the time that you would send a change from your station to all the data providers, and before they get it out to any of their systems updated, it could take 48 to 72 hours. So think about it, it's a Friday afternoon, you need a change for Saturday, more than likely it's not going to get any of those cable guides, any of that. And on top of that, many cable set-top boxes at consumers' home only update the guide once a week. Some may update once a day, but will not pick up any daily changes. So again, maybe it's Wednesday, but that cable box that updated on Monday, your change on Wednesday for Saturday is not getting in their system. And that's harder because those are consumer boxes at their homes, and the older they are, but as new people come on, they get the new boxes and the more that they update. So that's a harder one to try to figure out if that consumer that's calling in, how that's all happening. And then the other thing is stations don't always update their PSAP data to reflect any day of changes. That is one thing that we do provide in our MediaStar tool. It allows stations to update, doesn't matter which version of MediaStar you have, to update that day of. It'll then publish, which updates it on the FTP site. Just a reminder to your engineers, though, that PSAP hardware needs to go out and look for the changes. We know some PSAP hardware is only set up to look for changes once a day, where some are on a better or closer recurring every 15 minutes, every hour. So you'll just have to ask your engineer as far as how often is your PSAP hardware looking for changes, and if you need to make a change, how can you do it? So it kind of goes back to how long will it take the update to reflect on the online guides? So the same thing, it takes 48 to 72 hours before it gets updated. But with our system, any of the, from TitanTV.com to TanaWeb to any of the affiliates, as soon as you make a change in MediaStar and you publish it, it will be automatically updated in those services. So can program guides be updated in a timelier manner? That's the question today that we are hopefully going to answer for you. Because Titan TV now has a solution. It is our MediaStar Direct Data Reporting. So let me actually pull that up. So what you should be seeing now is our MediaStar scheduling tool. This will be rolled out to first all of our MediaStar Scheduler users. If you're unsure what version of MediaStar you have, just let us know and we can let you know. But the idea is today, a MediaStar Scheduler user is using the tool to build out their schedule. And then once they've made their changes, they go into reports. Most of them go to general reports. They already have a template set up. They get through their, maybe change the time frame, they go to finish. And from here, they would send their report, for example. But we have added now a way where you can go, instead of PDF grid, you're going to send the data. It's going to then switch to this particular screen. What the nice thing about this is, it doesn't matter what fields you have set up. The fields that will be sent to each of the data providers will be basically the same. It will be a little bit between what we send to RedBee FYI, since they're a baseline data provider. And the global programs that are in MediaStar is their programs. So anything that's theirs, we're going to send it back to them and all the user added. Where if it's GraceNote TiVo or TV Media, and it's a global program, we're only going to send really the program title and maybe episode number, because even if we had sent them the program description, each one of those companies rewrites the description to fit their language as they, or how they speak. So we'll get more into those details as we roll it out. But the exciting thing is, so let's say I went ahead and sent it. All I want to do now is go like send it. So I picked the 3 data providers we have set up in this demo account. I have now electronically sent those reports to those data providers. The idea behind this is if it's electronically sent, it's going to get into their system quicker. Even if they on their end, and each one's going to handle it differently as after we sent it, is they can look at it, but then the idea is there's less human error because they're not copying and pasting. I can tell you right now, we're pretty close to going live with both TV Media and RedBee. In first quarter, we'll start hopefully rolling those out. Then after that, we will roll it out once we get GraceNote live. And after those are live, we'll reach out to TiVo and to get those live. Do we have any questions? I thought I saw a hand raise.
There's no questions as of yet. Just to remind people, there is a questions section on the dashboard. So if you have any questions for Heidi, please feel free to use that. But so far, the feedback is that it's very cool and they're excited in what I am seeing. Oh, we have a question. Can you re-show how you got to that report?
Yep. So once it's set up, and we will do training, so you get to see Chelsea some more and train walk you through this, it's the same workflow that you do today to send your general reports. That's what we want to start in. It might change after we get all 4 of them up, because then after that point, maybe you won't be sending as many of the general reports. So I made all my changes in my schedule here. I'm going to go to reports. I would then click on general reports, finish tab. Down here where it says report type, you know, today you can go to list, PDF, then you would click on send data. Then you would pick the 3 and hit click down and then send data. Because as we know today, until we can get all 4 of these in there, you're still going to have to send those reports via email to the data providers we don't have set up. But our end goal is to be able to send your report how often that you want to send it directly to the 4 data providers. One of the things I do want to note through some of the testing that we have been doing, for example, if you have 5 weeks of 5 weeks of your schedule that you want to send, don't send one at a time. Go to that channel, send all 5 weeks. So you would go up here and you change your time frame to the 5 weeks that you want, then go to finish, go to your data report, then send it, because you're just going to, it makes it harder for them because they're seeing 5 files versus 1 file, for example. Chelsea, and some of the other testing, are there any other practices that you can remember?
There's one note that I would make when you're selecting your time frame that you're sending, is that you can't have any gaps in your schedule. Otherwise, it would throw an error. So it has to be complete day filled for you to be able to send that day. Similar to your publishing that you're already used to, you can't have any gaps. It's just a little bit different than what you're probably used to.
So this is the area, and I extended it knowing I do have in my demo 5 some holes end of the month. It'll say this: data cannot be sent. The specific time frame contains programming gaps. So it'll give you a warning that you can. So then you just need to go back to your schedule. Again, as we continue to roll this out and we get users to utilize it, the feedback from you guys is what's going to help us to continue to add on stuff, maybe some additional features that makes it easier. So if you're interested in being one of the first stations or first users to get up and start testing this, let us know. You can either do it in the questions now or the chat, or send us an email afterwards. Hey, I would love to be one of the first ones to utilize this. And again, when we first roll it out, it might just be one provider. So let's see if I got this. So maybe it's just TV media, or it's just FYI to begin with. But that's, we want to get all the kinks out before we really roll it out to everyone, or really start to add multiple providers. What we don't want to do is get everyone up on there and everyone does it at the same time and it crashes things. Any other questions?
Yes, can you remind us how we just highlight changes when sending a schedule?
So if you're using our generic ones, I have a template set up. I have it my change date report. And what I'm using on my particular one here is this filter change date. So if you are utilizing change dates, what you can do then is, and I don't know if I have any, I'm gonna go, let's go, let's go October. Oh, I need the right year. And let's go to today. If I go to finish now, I'm gonna have any of those changes highlighted in yellow based on my filter. And I don't know. And I don't have any changes in this time frame, but then it would highlight those changes. And if you need us to help you set up that report, just reach out to us. Again, on the home tab, I would suggest emailing customer care at Titan TV. We can send you kind of a walkthrough, or go ahead and schedule a one-on-one with Chelsea, even if it might only take 5 minutes. She can walk you through, help you set up that report, and then it's the template set up for you going forward. Additional questions, Chelsea?
There's another one that you had already answered, but I think it's really important to kind of just reiterate. We only have the 3 providers that are selected currently. So it's important to still send your reports like you're sending them now to your other data providers, or your other people that you need to make sure that they have your schedules. So those cable companies and other providers. But I think that was just something that I think we should hit on again, that we'll just want to keep that consistency until we can get even more data providers added into the send data feature.
And it looks like Tracy asked, they go to many agencies. Can those then are showing up in your list? If you know an agency that you're sending it to, send us that contact information, because I'm assuming you're not the only station that's sending that report to the agency. Maybe we can add them to this direct data reporting so it's electronically sent to them. We are very open to that if they're open to it. So yes, send us a contact. Let us dig it deep into it and see if that's something we can add on to this. And maybe we just need to clarify what they might need versus like a data provider that's maybe wanting more information. So yes, send it our way. Any other questions?
That's all the questions that we have in our question queue so far.
So again, also a reminder for anyone that has any of our MediaStar tools, kind of what I talked about with the guide services, once you make a change, make sure you're going in and publishing. So for example, this one, I'm showing 2 weeks, which is what's public on my guide on my website. This day I made a change, but I didn't publish. So make sure that you publish. So now that I published it, it's going to update the guide, the Titan TV guide on your website, titantv.com. We have guide services now also on our consumer site, tenaweb.org. And then any other data provider that we provide data for your station is now been updated in real time. Alrighty, now any other questions? So let me go back to here. I just want to reinforce here again, just a reminder to everyone, even before we get all this direct data reporting, make sure that you're sending all of your programming reports, the weekly, monthly, to these 4 data providers. I can tell you earlier this year, this email had changed. These used to be at rovi.com. Now it's scheduling support at TiVo. That is also in MediaStar in several places. So if you have any questions on that. And as always, if you have any questions on anything, or want to set up a training or walkthrough, or help set up a report That's the other thing I would throw out there. If there's currently a report that you're still managing like an Excel spreadsheet, please send it to me and Chelsea. Give us a little background on what that report is, and we more likely will be able to show you how to pull and manage that exact report in MediaStar with everything that you're doing now, and then you can get rid of those additional Excel spreadsheets. That would be another thing, Chelsea, I know that came up that I'm just going to throw in there related to reports, is someone has asked about Excel spreadsheets. We do have Excel reports available. It's really only if you need it, just let us know, we'll turn it on. The few use cases that we know is the sales team needs it. The reason we haven't turned it on to everyone is we really haven't got a lot of feedback. It's a little complicated at setting it up. Right now, it only shows you 7 days, but just to show you what that report would look like. And Chelsea, tell me if you don't see this once this populates here. As it pops to my other screen.
I see it now.
And again, I could blow it up, but then you'll see you can play around with the report, but it even pulls in your colors. So it's pulling in the title, the time span, episode number. So, and I know for different reasons, use cases, people are wanting an Excel spreadsheet, and it's not really something that we have made too public just because we feel like it could be better. But we really want somebody that's utilizing us to give us some better use cases of how they're utilizing it, maybe to make it better. So again, if that's something you're interested or like us to turn on for you, just let us know. Alrighty. Well, it's another short one. We don't need to make it longer than it needs to be. But again, if you have any questions, go to the Home tab, just email customer care at Titan TV. It'll go to myself, Chelsea, Marge, Dwayne, and Morgan, and we'll be able to answer all your questions. Otherwise, feel free to set up a training with Chelsea at any time. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.